Conversations across time, 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 across time, conversations across time, conversations across time, conversations across time, conversations across time, conversations.
Welcome to Conversations Across Time, the program that allows you to witness imaginary, honest, no-holds-barred conversations between historical personalities. These persons, or immortals if you will, have greatly impacted the conversations and issues of today. You and I together will get a glimpse into the fascinating personalities and the conversations that they may have had with each other had they had the opportunity to meet. Welcome. And I have seated to my right former state representative and my dear friend Babette Josephs. Seated next to Babette is Countess Berthold. Countess Berthold is an aristocrat from Germany who lived in 1930 and witnessed the rise of Adolf Hitler. Seated next to the Countess is the 28th President of the United States, President Woodrow Wilson, whose policies and involvement in the Treaty of Versailles greatly impacted what happened in post-First World War Germany. Seated next to President Wilson is, of course, Frederick Douglas, citizen, activist, and just abolitionist who was very much involved in shaping the policies of race in this country in the 19th century. Welcome to you all. And I know because we have you here, Countess, there are some questions that have always gone through my mind and I think have gone through the minds of people who have followed history, and that has to do with in the 1930s and the 1940s, Adolf Hitler forged a path that led to the Second World War. Even today, the name Hitler conjures up a sense of death and destruction. There's a dread, and we think of him as having lost a complete sense of morality. So today, we are going to explore these questions. First, I'd like to know from you, and I'd like you to explain to us how it is that the proud German people could allow a madman like Adolf Hitler to lead his evil regime, the Third Reich, and how it happened that he came to power in post-World War I Germany.
Well, we were extremely angry. We were so annoyed. And we were annoyed with Mr. Wilson, President Wilson, because you punished us very unjustly. You treated us very unfairly. And you admitted, you forced us to admit guilt for World War I.
If I may interrupt you a second, Countess, the original 14 points put no guilt on the Germans. When I met at Versailles Palace with the representatives of England, France, and Italy, in order to obtain world peace for the future, I had to issue some compromises to get them to agree to a League of Nations. And they were insistent that we have reparations from you to the conquered nations, especially Germany and France. And also, they wanted us to blame you for the war. Now, if you're mad at anyone, you need to be mad at Clemenceau and Lloyd George, not at the United States and Woodrow Wilson.
Now, I want to just ask you a question, Countess, if I may, because President Wilson, you grew up in the Reconstructionist South. I mean, you knew what harsh terms could happen to a defeated people, what those terms could do to people who were defeated. I have a problem with you as someone who was advocating democracy all over the world, who was advocating peace. How could you not know what the terms of the Versailles Treaty were going to do to the German people? So I have my questions about the German people, but at the same time, the Countess makes a very good point.
The problem with this is that I entered Versailles with the conception that we can never let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And I felt that we had to establish an international peace organization, regardless of the cost, to further world peace. And that way we would have a better world in Germany, Czechoslovakia, the countries that we created. Now, it's unfortunate what happened in Germany, but that's not entirely the fault of my policies or the policies of Versailles. It was the fault of the German people and the other countries in the world that allowed Hitler to get away with certain things.
But how can you have peace? I mean, I understand your vision for the League of Nations, and I have looked recently at the treaty, and the first whole part of it is about that. But what I don't understand is, in this compromise, you seem to think there could be peace without justice. And that never happens. That never happens. One has to have freedom, justice, fairness, and a way to better one's life before one can be at peace. Peace is a lot more than just the absence of violence.
That is true. However, if we allow the same conditions that existed before World War I, imperialism, nationalism, militarism, to continue to exist, we'll never have freedom. So we're really talking about a chicken and an egg kind of argument. What comes first? Peace or freedom? Freedom or peace? And I'm not sure we can have them simultaneously, so my position was peace first, justice later.
Justice denied, justice, what is it? Justice coming too late is... Yeah.
Justice delayed is justice denied. Let me just interject this thought. The position of the German people, I believe, is understandable. The Treaty of Versailles decimated their internal structure. There were no jobs. People were facing starvation. Children were facing starvation. And there was a sense of fear in Germany. Fear of today, fear of tomorrow, fear of your neighbors, fear of yourselves. So it was understandable that the German people would be at such a low ebb that a man like Hitler, a charismatic, inspirational leader who comes on the scene, who's able to organize externally, his brown shirts, black shirts, able to organize internally to grow up to become vice chancellor, then chancellor. Those kinds of things are understandable when you suppress the people. I mean, Germany was in a practical state of servitude. And as I said in 1828, I didn't know I was a slave until there were things I wanted to do that I couldn't do. And that's the situation I saw Germany in. So it's understandable.
But the world stood by while Hitler violated the terms of the Versailles Treaty, stopped paying reparations, armed the country again. Why did we all just stand there?
The world did worse than that, but I'm sorry.
Yeah, the terms of the treaty, they were forced on us. And we were forced to pay reparations to Great Britain and to France. And we didn't have the money. We were economically deprived. How could we pay? We couldn't pay. So we were in dire straits. And then we had to accept the French occupation in a Rhineland. They were occupying the Rhineland for 15 years.
And so here's what I want to do, because you make, as I said, Countess, you make a very interesting point. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back because there are serious questions that we have of you, President Wilson, and I especially want to get to how you didn't foresee what would come from the Treaty of Versailles. So if we take a break and we'll come back and we give you a moment to collect yourself to answer, because I'm certain that we all have questions of you. And we'll be back after this break.
So here I am, waiting for a bus on a street corner when my friend Vivian drives by in a car and says, "Babette, I want you. I need you." So I thought, sure, and I had a card with me, my business card. I gave it to her, and I thought, I probably won't hear from Vivian again for a while, but right away she emailed me, she called me, and now I'm doing her concept, which is really, really interesting, to make history alive and to relate it to what's happening now in our country and our world.
I'm Jennifer Burton, producer of Conversations Across Time. Watch us on PhillyCam.
I hope you join us for Conversations Across Time. It's an idea that has been germinating for a long time, and I believe there's something for everyone. It's education and entertainment.
Across time, conversations across time, conversations across time, conversations across time, conversations across time.
Welcome back. When we left, we were asking President Wilson about the reparations that Germany had to pay as a result of World War I. And from that, we were led to Countess Berthold to ask the question, Countess, what was life like in Germany after World War I, after President Wilson's Treaty of Versailles?
Well, the economy was devastated, and Hitler, we were so happy that he did come into our lives because he did improve the economy, and he brought us out of the abscess, the abyss. And he built roads, and he was able to rebuild the military. Now, my husband was in the military. He was away for a while, and then he finally came back, and we were very pleased because he got his command back. The roads, as I said, were built. Now we had the Autobahn, and we had the people were able to travel. We had new roads, and the factories were being built. And in the factories, the German engineers came into the factories and they built the Volkswagen. The Volkswagen, which was a people's car. Volks meaning people, wagon meaning car. Hitler wanted everyone to have a Volkswagen, to have a car.
Now, may I just interrupt, because what's so
However, we had a Mercedes.
Well, you were an aristocrat, and that's what I was going to ask. What was so interesting about that when we talk about the Volkswagen? Because we know in this country, one of the turning points in our history had to do with the Model T Ford, because Henry Ford all of a sudden said everyone should have a car, and a car was for common people. So comparable to the Model T Ford was the Volkswagen in Germany.
Yes.
So that ordinary Germans had a car. What other things did they have as a result of this madman coming to power? And I recognize he didn't seem like a madman at the time in the beginning. So some of the other depressing things that were happening in Germany after World War I, after President Wilson's treaty, what was the economy like?
The economy was it had collapsed. The mark was 130 million to 1. But he really improved our economy. We were so happy, we were so pleased because of that. And he bought factories. And in the factories, there was war productions. And he was able to, he built bridges, he built roads, he restored the coal mines, and then he put our people back to work. Our people were involved in working now. Now they were employed. 6 million people had been out of work. And these people were now gainfully employed. They began to feel very good about themselves. They had self-esteem. The unemployment was lower, and the economy was now being stimulated. I could see this around me. The people were becoming happier, with their existence.
And I guess an interesting question that I might have is that you as an aristocrat perhaps didn't view Hitler in the way that we think of him now because of all of these things that you talked about that he accomplished for the economy in Germany. But I have to ask you, were you as an aristocrat maybe somehow appeased or relieved by someone like a Hitler coming into power versus what happened in Russia with, of course, the communist revolt? I mean, was there something within the aristocrats of Germany that said, well, we'll take this little corporal doing the things that he does because he's saving our economy? Did you do that with a view towards what communism may have visited upon Germany? Was that part of the reason?
Yes, it was, absolutely. Even though we felt that Adolf was bourgeois, we thought, we were very, very pleased because he brought our country back to its original glory. And we were pleased with him. Even though he was not built. He was not born in Germany. And he was an Austrian. But he improved our economy. And he brought, as I said, he brought us out of the pits. And things were now improving in Germany. And we were very, very pleased.
Now, did you think with Hitler, did the aristocracy in Germany think that they could control him? I mean, did you have any idea of the danger of accepting the National Socialist Party? I mean, did you ever think about that, or were you so happy and so relieved to not be confronted with communism that you accepted this man?
Well, we detested communism and the evil communism and the godless Bolsheviks. And with communism, though, nobody wanted, we were very unhappy with communism. Nobody wanted communism.
Well, when you say we, are you talking about we as the German people or we as the aristocracy of the German people? Because I would think that there would be a difference.
We as the German people.
As the German people?
Yes,
okay.
We didn't want communism in our country. And,
Well, I would kind of disagree. I think probably the aristocracy was a little nervous about what happened to the nobles in Russia when communism came in. The ordinary people were only too happy to get rid of them, and I would expect the ordinary Germans wouldn't have minded, forgive me for saying this, for getting rid of you, if they could have had a job. Once they got a job, but the whole world, Hitler did not disguise what he was. Never did. I think the whole world knew it, and the whole world decided to turn their back.
Yes, that's true.
But the fact that the upper class Germans opposed communism because it was a threat to their class, and they saw what happened to the aristocracy of Russia. My own colleagues, the Western leaders, the leaders of Britain, the leaders of France, the movers and shakers in the United States, many of those people supported Hitler for the same exact reason that the upper class Germans supported Hitler, because they were deathly afraid of communism. Even Jewish people, rich Jewish people like the Rothschilds, supported Hitler because they were fearful of communism.
Now,
The communists was the third largest party in Germany at the time of the rise of Hitler. So it was definitely a threat in terms of taking over the national government.
and I think what we want to do is we're going to take a break now, and we will come back and discuss this, because I think there were so many things that were happening in Germany at the time that we can't view this in a vacuum. So what we'd like to do is we'd like you to give you, Countess, an opportunity to think about that, because I can understand your view as an aristocrat. I understand that. We get that. But in light of what Mr. Douglas just said, communists were the third largest party in Germany. And certainly there had to be some concern on the part of the aristocracy in terms of what would happen if communism came into Germany. And so you could form an alliance or an allegiance with a person who you might not have personally liked, but the reality is he was the lesser of the two evils. If it was Hitler versus communism, then of course you as an aristocrat would be interested in the National Socialist Party. So let us come back, we'll review this because I think we've got to look at how your class dictates your perception of Mr. Hitler and his rise, and perhaps there might have even been some notion on the part of the aristocracy of Germany that perhaps you could have controlled this little corporal. So we'll come back and we'll delve into that.
Conversations across time. Conversations across time. Conversations across.
You pursued even more than the fact that you owned slaves and you inherited these slaves through your wife. I mean, for instance, what kinds of things did you do for your slaves?
Conversations across time. Conversations across time. Conversations.
The two cities that have failed in this country are predominantly African American cities, New Orleans and just now Detroit.
Across time. Conversations across time. Conversations across time. Conversations.
The thing is that you just could have stayed in France and you could have persuaded him, well, since slavery was illegal in France, you could have persuaded him to free your children and free yourself.
Conversations across time. Conversations across time. Conversations across time. Conversations across time.
Welcome back. And we are going into the final segment of this, and what we want to do is try to get a handle and an understanding in terms of what was actually happening in Germany. Now, I had the suspicion that the aristocracy may have had a different notion, and I think Frederick Douglas, Mr. Douglas, brought up the fact that the communists were the third largest party in Germany. You want to expand upon that, Mr. Douglas?
Well, the Communist Party was in competition with other parties, and as a matter of fact, other ethnic groups, to take, I mean, there was a vacuum of power, to take control of the government. And Hitler organized the National Socialist Party as a way to be a buffer to repel the movements of the Communist Party. So it's understandable that the average German person would be more allied in Germany to the National Socialist Party rather than the Communist Party. And that's certainly what applied to the class of the Countess.
But certainly the class of the Countess sort of thought they could keep Hitler as a puppet,
Yes.
and he would protect them from these evil communists.
Yes.
And wouldn't do them any harm.
Yes, their attitude is that Hitler can be discarded, that we can use Hitler and he can be discarded. So what if Hitler is saying that we should have sterilization? We will accept that. So what if Hitler is saying that we should have concentration camps? We will accept that. So what if Hitler is saying that we should kill thousands of children? We will accept that, because after we accept that, we will lift up our heads, we will get rid of Hitler, and we'll be back in world
And the
power.
whole world thought the same thing.
And the world thought the same
We
thing.
thought that we would be able to manipulate him. He was our puppet. He was under our control. We would be able to manipulate him.
Your husband was a military man. How did the military men, did he articulate to you that they could get rid of Hitler once he accomplished the goals of stymieing communism? Did your husband articulate that to you? That they could get rid of Hitler? That he thought the military could get rid of Hitler?
Yes, he did articulate it to me.
So the military thought once they accomplished their goals, they would be able to either control or get rid of Hitler?
Yes, that was the idea. He wanted to be manipulated. We wanted to thrust him out of the country, and he was our puppet and to play with.
So the military thought they could control him as well. That's what your
Yes.
husband told you.
Yes.
And they had this great disdain for Hitler, the high-ranking military. They called him the little corporal, or the Austrian paper hanger.
Paper hanger,
They
that's what I remember.
dissed him in the word.
Did you ever go and with your husband any receptions that Hitler was at?
Yes, we went to many receptions.
Afterwards, did they ever you know, did your husband express the same things that Mr. Douglas said about him being a little corporal and not liking him?
Oh, yes, I mean, we went to many receptions. The people, the bourgeois, they detested him. I mean, the German women, though, they thought he was extremely attractive and
Get out of here. You mean to say that the German women thought that little guy that looked like Charlie Chaplin was attractive? Come on now.
yes, they did.
With a mustache like
They
that?
thought he was very attractive, that he was very articulate, and he would speak to the German women, and he told us that he was celibate. He said that he was
Oh, my.
focused mainly on the country.
But Countess, I have to ask you a question. This is interesting, and we're gonna leave and come back to this at a later time. But I have to say, I mean, I look at the mustache. I consider that he's this little dwarf of a man, and he was a paper hanger. And I can't imagine how anyone, the German women would view him as attractive, and plus, as I understand it, am I not correct?
He had power.
Greatest aphrodisiac.
Yes.
But Babette, I want to ask this question.
Didn't Henry Kissinger say that?
He had a lot of charisma. He had a way of smoothly working his way through the political parties.
Yes.
At the low end, he was very folksy with us. He was very articulate. He was amazing. He would just drift through and he would speak to us. He was so charming. I mean, he really played the role. And then when he said it's power, women love power. Power.
Okay, but I
money.
want to ask this
Yes.
question. I have to ask this question. I'm going to ask it of Babette. I understand you might have been bamboozled. But give me a break. Did this man have a flatulence issue?
Really?
Yes.
I'm
He had
not
a-
surprised.
And so you talk about power, you talk about whatever, and here's this man that has this digestive issue that causes him to be flatulent.
aphrodisiac
And you're talking about him
powers
being
to a-
attractive?
to a
Let's look at how the world, let's look at the world, how the world viewed Hitler. However the Germans viewed him, the world certainly thought he was a man of high stature.
That's right.
So, and the world participated in whatever his personal, private deficiencies might have been. The world saw him as a coming leader. And let's look at how the world participated. His radio broadcasts were heard all over the world. He wrote the book Mein Kampf, which went to every corner of the world. In 1933, he entered a pact with the Vatican that gave him his prestige, his first prestige. In 1939, he entered a pact with the Russians, which gave him the opportunity to go to war. And in 1938, Winston Churchill praised him, and Winston Churchill said, if England should ever fall on a disaster, we should pray to God that he would send us a man like Adolf Hitler.
Now,
Winston Churchill said, so I'm just saying, with all of that, and then you add that to the industrialists that
Roosevelt
participated in it, and other nations. So I'm saying whatever
English
his personal
like
bedroom
that.
deficiencies, he certainly was able to calm the world into appeasement.
and now, Mr. Douglas, I thank you for that expansion, and of course, putting me in my place. I just can't see how the women were charmed by him, but that's another thing. The matter is how he was viewed on the world stage. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to put a pin in it, and I'm going to invite the panel back so that we can continue this fascinating discussion, this fascinating conversation across time about a man who even today we view with such distaste. So thank you, and we welcome you back. We ask you to come back to join us for the continuation of this discussion about the madman, Mr. Hitler. And we will see you again, and this panel will come back, and we will conclude our discussion about Mr. Hitler. But I certainly think this merits us coming back to have another conversation. Thank you so much, Babette. Thank you, Countess. Thank you, President Wilson. Thank you, Mr. Douglas. And please, we look forward to you coming back so that we can finish this interesting conversation about this immortal that we view with such distaste.
Conversations across time. 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 Across time. Conversations 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 across